Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the March seminar. Thank you so much for coming out today in this awful weather. I know how hard it is to get out of the office when it's raining. Okay, so to today's topic, we're talking about feedback. We all want to know how well we're doing or if there's anything that needs addressing, and many of us dread that process, whether you're on the receiving or the giving end of that, those awkward kind of conversations that you have to have. The arduous process of giving feedback. So today we're fortunate that we've got Sally Foley-Lewis, who has joined us to tell us how to do those feedback conversations. They don't have to be like a trip to the dentist without the painkillers. And Sally spent many years coaching, mentoring and developing people to be more productive through building their people and team skills and being more effective in their task management. And this is just one area in which she works, which she's going to help us with today. So please join me in welcoming Sally.
Thanks, Justine. So by show of hands, who agrees exactly with what Justine just said? It's all about pain, avoidance, cringe. Are they going to cry again? Are they going to be the Teflon? Nothing ever sticks, never take responsibility again? Or is it the other side? What am I going to get hammered for this time? What haven't I done right this time? Why can't they just acknowledge what I've done right? Does any of that sound familiar? Some of it at least, yeah. Who absolutely loves feedback? Who loves the process? As long as it's good. Read the fine print, as long as it's good. Yeah, exactly. So what I'd love for you to do, while I do some magic up here and hopefully not go through the same thing, and a round of applause for Daniel for coping very well with that. So what I'd like you to do at your tables is actually think of that one word that would sum up feedback conversations for you. So it's one word, and I'd like you to share that at your table, please. Okay, you should have had enough time to do your one word by now. Would you like to come and join another table? Oh. You know the pressure's on you because I have to get input from every table. So what I'd like you to do is, now that you've listened to every word from your peers at your table, I'd like you to point to the person who said the really most amazing word. So point to that person now. Okay, who just got dobbed in? Okay, what was the word? Anticipation. Okay, nice word. Unpredictable, yes. You got dobbed in? Okay. Difficult, okay. Who got dobbed in here?
Well, it was a good word though, constructive.
Team effort, I like that. Who got picked? Empowering. Okay, you and I are going to have a conversation later because I love it. This table here. Enriching. Oh, another positive one. Did we have more positive or more borderline going down, do you think? Yeah. One of the things I want to plant a seed in your mind is about how you actually think about feedback before you even go into the conversation. Your feedback matters, whether you're giving it or whether you're on the receiving end of it. It's so critical. 80% of employees say how much more motivated they'd be if they were acknowledged in their work. Now, if you read into that study a little bit more, it also talks about, and even if it's bad feedback, even if it's bad, even if it's critical, at least someone's paying them attention and they can do something about it. So a few years ago now, 3 years ago, when I was only younger, I was the CEO of the Duke of Edinburgh's award here in Queensland. Now, CEO is a great title, but I was technically still a middle manager because I had a lot of positions above me that I had to report to. And it was my time for my annual performance review. And I thought, okay, because I struggled in that role, I'm going to prepare really well for this. I'm going to get all my notes together. I'm going to check back through my calendar, see what's happened over the last year, look at what we've done, really give the year an autopsy, and then sit down and come up with what it is exactly that I need from my boss going forward. So we get to the performance management meeting, I'm sitting down and I'm taking charge because, you know, I'm not shy, if you hadn't already guessed. And so I say to my boss, look, this is what I think went wrong. I don't think there are any surprises that we completely stuffed this up. However, the learning was X, Y, Z. Now, this went really well, and I think we're all surprised that went really well. But this is where I think I'm really stuck on, and I desperately need your help, and this is the help I need. You know, I'm like sitting there going, geez, I'm good at this. I'm awesome. You know, I'm owning it. And then the boss says, sure, fine. But did you see what Natasha said the other day in the meeting? What Natasha said the other day in the meeting? Like, this is my thought bubble. No. She turned up and she whinged about this and she whinged about that, and doesn't she not know that I have so many people that I have to look after? And then on top of that, we've got all that policy change that we've got to look after. And then, you know, Barry down the road there says that I can't have his staff for half a day, and I'm just sitting there thinking, it's about me. Where's me? You know, I'm not normally, it's all about me, although right now it really is. But trust me, I'm not an all about me kind of person. But in that moment, I just sat there and went, where did I show up in this feedback conversation? So if you've got to give feedback, what's the first thing I think you're getting from that example? What's that? Say that again? It was one-sided, definitely. What else was there? Misdirected. It wasn't feedback. What else? It needs to be relevant. She wasn't listening, not at all. It was all about her, and it actually had nothing to do with me, and she wasn't present with me. Yeah. So one of the things I think is really valuable, because feedback absolutely matters, is that you're present. And in order to be present, I want you to remove the word difficult from out the front of the word conversation. Stop telling yourself this is going to be a difficult conversation. Now, I don't know what other Pollyanna way of saying this, because sometimes they're challenging conversations that you have to have, but that's one way of looking at it. Still not quite that positive impact. How about a helpful conversation? How about this conversation I'm about to go into is going to be helpful? And it could be just in the back of your mind you say, I'm going to help them get out of this company. Whatever's got to work, you know? But that's the thing. I think our own attitude before we walk into the conversation is mission critical. So, yeah. So our same old thinking is going to get us the same old results. And that's why I want you to stop before you even think about the next feedback conversation you actually have to step into, because that's going to impact your attitude walking into that room. Who's ever know that they've got a function coming up and they think, just so don't want to go. There's going to be people there. I'm going to have to smile at them. I'm going to have to pretend I like them. What if there's alcohol? That might help me get through. Have you ever had one of those, okay, maybe not quite like that, as dramatic, but you just don't want to go, and you go with that bad mood, and how does the night turn out? I'm not going to repeat that word for the video, but that's pretty much it. With an SH on the front. Pretty much it, yes. Yeah, you set that up. Have you ever gone into a conversation going, this is going to be terrible? And it was. Well done for you. You got exactly what you asked for. So think about your own attitude going into feedback. Now, receiving feedback and good communication are listed in the top 5 priorities and factors for ensuring we have positive influence over our employees. And we all know communication underpins everything we do. That's not a secret here, is it? Hands up if that's new for anyone here. Good. Yeah. 58% of our companies say that their own performance management process is not an effective use of time. You know, it's almost that Einstein thing, you know, keep on doing it and expecting a different outcome, but they keep on doing it. But I think the key piece here is process. We need a better process. And I'm going to challenge and say we need a human process. You know, in the work I do with a lot of people, a lot of different industries, a lot of different managers, a lot of different leaders, what I often hear is, I just hate having to have these conversations. I don't know what to say. I don't know what I'm going to get back. The paperwork that has to go with these things is just annoying. Yeah? Who's in HR and has a HR policy around performance management has a lot of paperwork. Yeah. I'm not going to blame you. It's not your fault. But that's one of the things I think that really impacts. A lot of human resource leaders tell me I spend most of my time hounding my managers to get the paperwork back in. And then they wonder why we don't then roll out initiatives. Because I'm waiting for your feedback and your performance management paperwork. It's a cycle that seems to never end. Yeah. My manager's an air traffic... My husband, not my manager. If you ever tell him I said that... He knows I'm the boss. Okay, no. My husband's an air traffic controller, and he loves sending me a copy of, and don't ever tell anyone that, say for him right now, he sends me copies of his performance management paperwork. And we roll around the floor laughing and carrying on because it's all for an administration officer. My husband is purely technical. He's the one that pushes the planes around the air. That's all he does. I just want to go to work, plug in, do my job, and then come home. That's my husband. That is my husband, by the way. He's a very smart man, very smart man. And as you can imagine, he's completely introverted and shy. So for him, his performance management process makes no sense. It relates to nothing he does. He is demanded every quarter to say what he wants to do as he goes up through his career. He's actually expected to rise up the ladder. What does my husband want to do? Go to work, switch on, do my job, come home, ride my motorcycle. And he's a happy lad. You know, I admire that. He knows what he wants. He just wants the organisation to leave him alone and do his job. So for managers and leaders and people in your position, when you've actually got to give feedback, you know, I understand what's going on for you. You know, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of brain space, as well as not just the procedures you've got to go through to have these feedback conversations. It can be quite daunting. I had a nurse unit manager avoid one conversation for 2 years. And when we unpacked it, and I sort of went to town on her a little bit, and I said, so if you've been avoiding this conversation for 2 years, how many staff have you lost because of that? And she said, oh, I never really thought of that. I have lost 1 or 2 over the time. Because they can see, everyone can see what's going on. They could see that this issue was not being dealt with. And if my boss doesn't deal with that issue, then is that the permission she gives? Yeah? So something to think about there. You know, I think that for a lot of people, when they think about the conversations they've got to have, I know that there's one particular leader that I've worked with where when we got down to it, they were petrified, absolutely petrified, that within the culture of their organisation, they'd be accused of being a bully. Now, that's a big concern. And so we unpacked the definition of bullying inside their organisation according to their policies and procedures, and they weren't going to be a bully, but there's that emotional link to it, that fear that if I have to say what I have to say in order to help this person improve their performance, and knowing this person to some degree, they're going to call me a bully. No wonder they avoid the conversation. So that's some of the things that go on. Not really understanding the reason behind having a performance conversation is also another thing. When big organisations have a formalised process, a lot of people just fall into the machine of it all, yeah? And they just plod along. And then they wonder, I don't even know why we're doing this, but we have to do it. What a waste of my time, yeah? And I think that's also one of the things that frustrates and therefore gets avoided, and therefore when they get into trouble for not doing it, it reflects poorly on them, and then they start to go spiralling down as well. Is all this making sense? Yeah. So I think one of the things we need to think about when it comes to performance management is understanding where you might be in the context of performance management in your organisation. Now, at the bottom, we've got there people who can sabotage. You know, if you've got staff that have to report to you and you are responsible for their work output and their performance, therefore you need to be giving them feedback, and they are a saboteur, we need to think about shifting them. And an old boss of mine had a little analogy that said, improve, move, or remove. I thought that was pretty cool. And when I say move, like improve their performance, yeah, that makes more sense. Move them, okay, but don't dump them on someone else. Don't make them someone else's problem. But it might be a case of they're actually in the wrong job. They love the company, their performance is going down. They need to be in a better job, but maybe in the same company. And of course, the remove, and you've all got your policies and procedures around that. But what we're aiming for, obviously, is to shift further up that ladder. So we've got people who are resigned. Who shows up to work, lights on, but no one's home? Yeah, do you work with anyone like that? Don't name names. This is being recorded, don't name names. Yeah. So in this case, we need to build rapport. We actually need to spend some time and being present with them to understand what's happening. Yeah. Would you like a copy of these slides? Would these models be helpful? Okay, sure, no problem. So moving along from that, we want people to be... yes, sir.
With respect to your saboteurs, I think there's value in actually demonstrating to the rest of the company that you take these things seriously and you just march them.
Yes, definitely.
With as much dignity as the situation will allow, generously, you just get them out.
Yes.
Because you may not be aware of it, but there's a lot of people watching these people wondering why doesn't somebody do something.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll just repeat that so it's captured. To definitely move them on is a key process if they are not going to improve, and that's why the word shift is there. I totally agree, and with dignity and respect. And like that example before, someone else, people do see it, definitely. People see someone not being dealt with, it sends a really bad message. The behaviour you let walk past is the behaviour you accept. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Except most people delay the process. I mean, the whole idea is to do it as expeditiously and as quickly as possible.
I think that speed is important, definitely. I think it's a balancing act between speed and doing it exponentially. I totally agree if you can, but there's also policy, and those two have to sit together very neatly. I totally agree with you. I'm no longer an employee of anywhere, so I'm quite happy to walk into anywhere and go, well, just get rid of them. Just get rid of them. I do also know there are policies and procedures to go through, but don't hesitate. If you've made the decision, then get them into that procedure. Yeah, thank you. So moving along, we've got that compliance. Somebody just ticks the box and does it. Yeah, I had someone say to me once, oh yeah, I used to be all full of suggestions and I used to put forward all these ideas and I even offered to take it up and I used to offer to go find the funding for it. But then it just got, whatever. No. They got quashed. Their ideas, their enthusiasm got bottled up and put in the cupboard. So they just came compliant. So in this case, what we need is to connect further. Connect them there, help them be connected to get their ideas happening. Does it make sense? So as we're moving up, we want engaged people. We want our performance procedures to be something, okay, maybe not totally exciting, but we certainly want them to be engaged in the process so that they actually step into a feedback conversation quite excited and keen to learn more about what they're doing, keen to hear what they can be doing further, and maybe getting some guidance on how to improve some particular aspects. So we're empowering at this level. And obviously what we're driving for is the driven. Yeah. And at that stage, when you've got someone who's so driven and is showing up to their feedback conversations, whether they're good or bad, but they're driven and they own it, they take their responsibility, how do we develop that? How do we not lose that opportunity? So that model there helps guide me when it comes to looking at who I'm dealing with in performance situations. Does that make sense to you? What I'd like you to do is look at that model and just for yourself work out where you might be sitting in that model when it comes to your own performance or the performance process at your organisation. Anyone want to share? Anyone brave enough to share? When I was a public servant, I'd be dancing on that line between rapport, between resigned and compliant. I don't like sabotage. It would never serve me. That doesn't enter my mind. But I was definitely dancing between resigned and compliant. Yeah. And it doesn't mean just because on one day you're having a tough day and it might just land, especially with this time of the year. We've got performance reviews coming up for a lot of you, and that you have to roll out some performance reviews. Have a look at who's in your responsibility. Who do you have to do performance reviews with? Yeah. Where do they sit? What is it that you need to do to shift them up that line a little bit more? Is it about rapport? Is it about connection? Is it about empowerment or development? Any questions about that model? I'm going to say questions because I don't want to lose time. No questions, okay. So, this is where I think people really struggle with giving feedback. Or better still, having a two-way conversation that actually is about performance. When we don't have a structure, when we don't have a formula as such, we can quite easily get sidetracked. We can quite easily get caught off guard by the crier. Yeah, the person who comes in and the minute you say the first word, the tears just start. And sometimes they're legitimate and sometimes, geez, that's a good strategy. And in here, don't you? In here, nice strategy. Yeah. Or you got the Teflon person, as I talked about before. Oh no, that wasn't my fault. That wasn't me. That was their fault. Well, if they had done that, then I would have done this. Yeah. Yep, whatever. I don't know. Maybe they're my husband. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. You've met all these people, haven't you? Yeah, exactly. So when we don't have a structure, it makes it harder to be able to engage this person into the conversation. And this is where EECC comes into play. And what I'm hoping for with this particular structure, it gives you confidence, not necessarily to stick to it perfectly, but it gives you the structure to stay the course in the conversation. Now, like every model, they're beautiful and flawed. So you use it in a fluid way. Now, if you look across the middle there in the circles, we've got example, effect, coach and commit. And this is the four areas that you travel along. You may have to come back to different elements as you get into the conversation, but generally speaking, you go EECC. Example, effect, coach, commit. Now, example is when you actually need to have a specific example to talk about. Being vague, as you know, doesn't help. You did a great job. Great. With what? Awesome. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. And therefore you don't cover the specifics. Or, you did that wrong. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Tell me. You leave people room. If you don't be specific in that example, you leave people with room to actually wiggle out of responsibility. So the example must be specific. So, and a timesheet is one example that I often use. If someone doesn't actually show up to work on time when they're supposed to be, in accordance to their contract, the timesheet sits there. You're 20 minutes late on Wednesday, you're 30 minutes late on Thursday, you're only 5 minutes late on Friday, so we're getting better. But it's Monday again and you're back to 30 minutes late. And see this? This is the problem. Not you the problem, not me the problem. Your timing is the problem. See how I depersonalised it? Yeah. If you can put the issue in your palm, then that means they don't necessarily get as defensive. It's a very minor distinction, but an important one.
The issue I would suggest is that the immediate supervisor of that person is unlikely to have that conversation. And the matter will not be brought to someone else's attention for some weeks.
That can be the case, and then if it's brought to their attention, then they need to start observing and paying attention. So yeah, definitely. But I think what you're getting at is that when you've got one person complaining about someone else to someone else, then it's about whose responsibility is it in that regard to actually observe that behaviour. I think that's a distinction there. Yeah.
Is that not just giving people the, it's not actually my problem anyway? Like if you come to me and say, well, timesheet says that, you've been late, I go, giving everyone an excuse. We're too soft on people these days.
What's your name?
Michelle.
Michelle, your question there about are we being too soft and giving them an excuse to get away with it, is that right? Yeah, beautiful segue into effect. So thanks for that. Yeah. So we worked that out earlier, didn't we? And we've never met before. But this is where effect comes into play. Did you know that you being late impacts on your team? Did you know that the phones had to be covered because you weren't here and it was actually your day to cover the phones? So did you know, maybe you're not aware, but are you aware that if you don't get that report done by that date, it means it can't get edited and proofed and sent up? And that delays all the way through to the board. Did you know that if we could get into a lot of trouble if this isn't done properly, actually so much trouble that your job's on the line? Did you know that? Are you aware of that? So what you're aiming for is that responsibility piece. That's why when you do example and they don't get it, you go straight to effect. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Quite often, if you are moving into the coaching part of this particular formula and they're still giving you excuses, you haven't spent enough time in effect. And I would say you need to go all the way through to your job's on the line. Your job is on the line if we can't get this fixed. And it's not like your job's on the line if you can't get this fixed. It's like, please, your job's on the line if we can't get this fixed. Another great way of saying it is, I'm giving you these comments because I have very high expectations of you and I know that you can reach them. I'm going to repeat that. I'm giving you these comments because I have very high expectations and I know that you can reach them. Now you need to find your own language around this, but it's about making it very clear so that you're being specific around whatever the example of the piece of work is and the effect of it. Can you see how that together makes it so that it increases responsibility? So the little light bulb is about the insight. They're getting insight into their own performance, so they've got choice then. We good with that? Awesome. So the next piece is around coaching, and this is a coaching conversation. Now, you know yourself, who's got a beautiful, divine, gorgeous friend who says, you know what you should do? Yeah. And after about 3 or 4 more wines, they go, no, you know what you should do? You should be able to do that. You should. Yeah, you should. You should. Yeah? Yeah, you should. Yeah. Anyone relate to that? Yeah. One of us. Oh, well, it's just you and me, Daniel. Awesome. And you know that's the one thing they tell you that you should go do is the one thing you'll never do. Is that right? Yeah. So it's the same kind of concept that applies here. When your employee has determined their action, they're going to own it more. So that's why we add in a bit more of a coaching context to the next part of the conversation. This is the engagement, the invitation to take responsibility through action. So now that you are aware of this and you understand the impact or the effect of this, what do you think you could do? I don't know. Imagine if you did know. It's a terrible question, isn't it? But it works. Imagine if you did know. Oh, I don't know. What if someone you love dearly had this same issue at home? You know, they'd come home and tell you all about it. They've got to fix their behaviour or they've got to fix their performance in this particular area. What advice would you give to them? Oh, I suppose I'd do. Your job in this particular environment is to get them to tell you what they're going to do. Your job in this particular situation is to hear that the actions that they put forward are actually on track, and if not, guide them to be on track. The more you've got that person telling you what they are going to do, the more they're going to do it. And if they don't have any idea of what to do, then have 3 ideas tucked away in your pocket. Okay? All you want is 3 ideas. And get them to choose from those 3. You're still trying to get them invested in it, so choice is still there for them. So you're starting to get the feel that this is a well-practiced, well-rehearsed, incredibly planned out spontaneous conversation. You get that? And it is. Yeah. If you want a quality feedback conversation, you'll invest the time now to plan it so that when you have it, you're going to have the results that you want. And so will the employee. So many employees walked away. You know, I was telling you about the nurse unit manager who avoided the conversation for 2 years? The minute we went through this EECC, the day later she sent me an email saying, I did it, and they resigned, and I'm so happy. I thought, okay, that wasn't quite what we were after. However, in the conversation, the employee said, yeah, I haven't been happy, but I didn't know what to do. I felt stuck. I love this place. I love you, but I just hate the job. So it was actually a positive outcome, but because she followed a process, the person was respected, the process was respected, she was respected. So it gives that structure and it gives you that confidence. And so what happens there is between effect and coach, we've got the changeability happening, okay? People go, oh, I didn't know I was doing that. Or, no one ever showed me that. Is there training on this? Or, well, could you show me how to do it and then we'll go through and do it? Or maybe I need to go find a course to do it. Or I need to sit with someone and work it all out. So that's the changeability factor that happens when we step between effect and coach. So we've got action, which is the little thing at the top. And then the last piece is our commitment. Now, this is a two-pronged approach to commitment. You want to know that this person's going to be committed to doing what they say they're going to do. And they also want to know that you value them. One of the biggest complaints I hear is that managers and leaders do not follow up. You know, they invest a huge amount of time in the conversation. They say, oh yeah, we'll do this and we'll do that, and together we'll work this out, and you know, maybe I'll get back to you on that. And then tumbleweeds. Nothing seems to happen. There is no follow-up. What's the message that sends? What's that? You're not important. Absolutely. I don't value you. Yeah. It's actually not as important as me and what I'm doing. So this is something we need to forget about. So commitment is not just the employee's commitment to doing the change, but your commitment to them. One of the loveliest ways I love to do this, because it actually makes it easier for you, and trust me, I'm the laziest person I know, so let's make it easy. How would you like me to help you stay accountable to doing this? How would you like me to help you stay accountable to doing this? And they have to tell you. Then you just have to put it in your calendar and you do it. How would you like me to help you stay accountable to doing this? Notice how they have to tell you. That's an engagement piece again. They're telling you what's going to work best for them. All of a sudden, they're listening, they're caring. And I don't have to think. They're going to tell me. I don't have to sit there and have all the answers about every single employee. They're going to tell me. The other commitment piece, which is the employee's commitment to doing it, comes through that question, but also if you sense they're not quite committed to doing it, it's a simple calibration. Out of a score of 10, how committed would you say you are to doing this? Oh, 6. So 6 to me says we've got to find 4 more points. So is it 6 because this really isn't what you want to do? It doesn't make sense? What's keeping this at 6? So see how you head back into the coach conversation? Have that conversation, work out what it is. So what would be your score out of 10 now? Oh no, it's 10, I'm going to do it. Get out of my way, I'm rushing out now and I'm going to do it. Cool, we got them. We got them at 10. Now, sometimes I can be a bit cheeky and they say, oh yeah, 8 out of 10. I'm really good because I'll never give 10 out of 10 for anyone, but I'll give you 8 out of 10 and I'm excited and I'm going to do it. Cheeky Sally here says, what's it going to take to get 2 points? See how you've got that room to move and get their commitment. And that helps you understand just how committed they're going to be. If it's a low score, you know the action isn't going to happen. So you go back into coach and you can get the right actions for the right results. Does that formula make sense for you? Do we have any questions around the formula? Is it that easy? Is it that straightforward? What's that? Of course you are. Yeah. So I want you to just, yes, sorry.
Well, I can see the merit of the process.
Thank you.
I think there's another dimension which perhaps you'll get to talk about it, but that's the responsibility of the employer to make it the best place an employer would want to work, right? That's a question of, it's not just salary. Salary comes in at number 5, number 6. It's simply like safety, it's respect, it's keeping them informed, right? Ask the questions. What do you guys want to know? What about the organisation? And so we've just done that recently. We now, at the end of each month, advise, okay, performance against budget, in aggregate fees, highlight of the month, employee of the month, right? Trying to look to improve their level of engagement. So that people who may have been borderline can actually get engaged in the organisation and appreciate that that we are trying to look after them. The quid pro quo is that they need to deliver.
So I want to make sure we stay to time. Is there a question in there?
Well, my question,
Do you want to go back to that one?
well, yes, my question is simply, to what extent, though, while this is a logical process, I think isn't it missing something if there is no promise from an employer to provide an engaging environment?
Is there something missing if the employer doesn't provide an engaging environment? That's the question as I understand it. And the short answer is yes. And it's about culture, and it's about, that's a whole other topic that we could have 3-day conversation about. And I agree with you, culture is incredibly important. And, you know, we all heard the quote that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so my question to you, I guess, and it's a rhetorical one, is what do you do when you show up every day to impact the culture of your organisation? You know, are you the one that walks in and goes, yeah, with a hangover of yesterday or just last night, either one or both, you know, or are you the person that steps in and you make your difference in your little circle? You know, are you the one that steps in and goes, hey, how you going? Yeah. What are you going to do to make today great? I'm going to smile. That's all it takes. Now, I'm pretty out there, if you hadn't already guessed. And I got in a lift from the car park here just today to get here, and stood there holding the box because I have a book for everyone. I'm holding my box like this, and I'm standing there thinking, I'm going to step out in the rain and my beautifully blow-dried hair is going to get messy. And it's all about how I look because I'm completely vain. And then someone stepped into the lift and just burst my little bubble of vanity. And I went, hey, how you going? Enjoying the rain? No, me neither. Have a great day. It's how you show up. It's what you bring. And you as a leader in your organisation, irrespective of your job title, have a responsibility now, especially today, I give you that permission, to see how you can use that in order to improve the engagement, improve the motivation. This is a model I came up with quite a while ago. There's an older version of it, same content but older version in here, in this book for you. But it's the same content there and there's examples in there. Now, I tested it and tested it and tested it. And like I said before, you could be going along thinking you're doing really well and you're in the coaching conversation and all of a sudden they've lost it, they're not interested, they don't care. Go back to where you need to go back to in that conversation. All models are beautiful and totally flawed. Use it as a guide. Does that make sense? All right, we've got about 10 minutes left. What I'd love to do is for you to sit at your table and actually think of a situation, without naming names, but think of a situation, you've got about 2-3 minutes, and I want you to just unpack the EECC using a situation as a team, okay? Can you think of someone or some sort of situation or some sort of behaviour? It's usually easier to think of something that's ticked you off. Okay? So I'll give you about 2-3 minutes now to have a conversation and unpack EECC at your table. Where to start? I like that one. Where do we start? Can we all just come back now? Thank you. So notice how, maybe for you it's quite easy to go to something that's gone wrong. Yeah? When someone's behaviour's been bang out of order or they haven't done something right, and I don't know how many times I have to tell you how to do this. Well, stop telling them, start coaching them. Yeah, that's all the negative side of things. But you can also use this for praise. So you know that project you did on XYZ? I just need you to know you did a fantastic job on that. The impact of that, the effect, was XYZ. The board loved it, the revenue went up, this happened, that happened. I don't know if you're aware of just how much further or the knock-on effect of your good work has been. Now I'm getting goosebumps saying it. Imagine if someone said that to you. Oh, a little bit puffy-chested now. I'm a legend. Hopefully just in their head. But see, that's having an effect, yeah? So the coaching conversation. What did you really learn from doing in that particular project? Is there something in that project you think you can replicate elsewhere? Are there other team members who you think could help you to repeat this elsewhere? What are our opportunities from this now? And there's your coaching conversation. And out of that comes the action. So after that we have commitment. So what will you do about it? How do you want me to help you stay accountable? What's your score out of 10? See how we can use it both ways? And also, because there are quite a few people who don't know how to give praise, and there are also some people who think your pay packet equals your praise. It doesn't, and I think I'm getting the nod so you know that. But some people struggle to know how to give praise because they think it's, it's a key if I do that. Well, here's a particular structure for you to use. Yeah. So thank you for doing that. I don't want to necessarily put you on the spot to share what you said at your tables because it could be quite personal unless there's someone brave enough who wants to say something. So it's time for me to wrap up, and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them through my phone. And do you? No, the microphone. I've always wanted to try and do that. So the microphone's fine. But if you would like a copy of the flipped feedback white paper, and this is where I talk about that model, plus also the feedback process, a performance management process. First chapter of the Productive Leader, plus a Management Success Skills ebook, as well as weekly productivity notes and 21 days of flipped feedback tips. Please text your name and email to me, and I will set you up with that. I also have a copy of my book for you to take away today. Please take one, because that's actually the end of the print run for that. So I want to make sure everyone gets one. Any questions? Any comments? Any concerns? Anyone want some coaching? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sally, and I hope that everybody here got something that they can take away from that and use in their upcoming performance appraisals and giving feedback. And thank you so much for the book as well on behalf of everybody, Sally. Thank you.